what's up guys, it's Agent Juicy and today I'm back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Moto G4, so stay tuned. Recently, Lenovo acquired Motorola a couple years back, and basically this is the duo's first Android smartphone in the Western market. On the design of things, the Moto G4 is quite understated. It's very simple and not a huge difference in terms of design. The buttons are nice and clicky, it's firm, which some people will love and some people will just not love that much. The accents are really simply laid out. The phone looks elegant. The texture on the back door is absolutely amazing, and it is removable, but the battery is all sealed in. The corners and edges of this device is nicely rounded and very soft. In the palm of the hand, it does not feel like a 5.5 inch whatsoever. It actually feels like a 4.7 inch device. The one downside that I had with this design, the front placement of the fingerprint scanner. While it is very easy to access on the front screen, I really wish it was on the back at that dimple right there. The reason I say that, let's say you're in an application or whenever you touch that button or just make any sort of contact with it, it brings up the menu for Android and you accidentally touch the home button. So if you're watching a video in landscape mode and you hold the device like this, you accidentally press on that home button. Audio is delivered using this soundbar at the top, which also doubles as the earphone for the device. Speaker quality is good. It's not the greatest that I've ever seen, but it's good enough to get by. It does reverberate throughout the device, like you feel a little vibration when it's on loud. Holding the device in landscape mode, your finger tends to cover the speaker or earpiece. Now, you may think that degrades the audio quality, but it does not for some reason. And that's because the speaker is slightly sunken into the frame, and that's actually a good thing. Now, here's a quick sample of the audio quality on the device.
Cash, boss.
Now, as you just heard, it's clear, but you do get some distortions when it's at max. If you're playing graphic-intensive games, you will have zero drop frames. You would have absolutely no problems whatsoever. And that being said, something to do note is the way the car actually looks during the gameplay, or the current graphic rendering, if you want to call it. You could see the weakness of the processor, and it does not affect the performance of the game, but what you will notice is that some things don't look as pretty as it will look on a high-end console like a PlayStation or an Xbox. On the software side of things, it's kept to the very pure Android experience that Motorola has been doing for the past couple years. What you will notice is most of the preloaded apps are this right here, and that's it. You may get some branding from your carrier, depending if you get it from there. But beyond that, this is basically all that you get. You have to download everything else. On the camera side, like the software for the camera, we'll talk about that later. It's very, very, very minimalist in its approach. And that being said, however, it does not lack or skimp out on any. It does have some professional modes where you could set the ISO, white balance, focusing speed, and maybe the shutter speed, but that's about it. It's kept very, very clean and very, very pure. In fact, I would actually go as far to say this is a pure Android of a Nexus device, and that's actually quite deep. You also get the chop gesture to turn on the flashlight, and also like the glance where you could quickly look at your notifications on your lock screen. Now, the Antutu Benchmark was about 45,794, or let's say 46,000, just for simplicity. And this basically pushes the processor to see what it's capable of, and it's a really good benchmark just to see where it lands. And but as you can see, this is not a very high score. I've seen scores of 65,000 and well over that for some flagship devices. If you go and look at my LG G5, and I just like push that in, click on the card right there. But yeah, this isn't a bad score whatsoever. Now, turning our focus to Geekbench, as you can see, 719 for 3,000. 3000. Obviously we're going to focus on the multi-core score because that's what you're going to be using for a heavy task, and that isn't a bad score. Now, one new benchmark I would like to add is basically checking the internal storage or the SD card that's internal in the device that it comes with. And as you can see, that's the read speed, 176 megabytes per second, and with a write speed of 78.3. So the reason that I measured this for is because this is going to be quite useful for basically booting up the OS, and basically if you're installing apps. And over time, what I've noticed is as apps get bigger, this is quite important, so I'm starting to include these in my review now. Now, the RAM test is basically, as you can see, it copies at almost 3.5 gigabytes. Now, the reason that I focused on these two separate from Geekbench and Antutu is this actually tests these really intensely. And one of the things that I've noticed with new smartphones coming out is they start to skimp out on the storage, like they give you really crappy storage cards on your phone, and what you notice is sometimes it just gets super laggy and glitchy, especially if you encrypt the device. I do appreciate this little addition. The battery life on the G4 Plus is actually a 3000 milliampere per hour battery size, which is quite large, and it is going to be sufficient to give you a full 24 hours of usage, meaning you could go 24 hours of usage with this device on LTE or 4G and have zero problems whatsoever. In terms of screen on time though, you're looking at about 4 hours and 10 minutes to 4 hours and 30 minutes, which is really high, and I'm actually quite impressed for an octa-core processor. Now, a little disclaimer, I was on Wi-Fi a lot of those days, and when I got home, I had about 40% battery life, so I would leave home with 100%, get back home after gym around 10 o'clock at night, and it would be exactly at 40%, and that's insane when you come to think about it, how good the battery performance is on this device. The battery is non-removable, just something to do note in case you're wondering why is the back door off of the device. So let's dive into the camera and the picture quality. So at the back, we have a 16 megapixel at f2.0. What f2.0 means is the aperture is really low, so you would be able to get a lot of light into the sensor, and you will also be able to get better low light performance. And if you have really good light situations, you could get a super blurry background. You see, like in this video right now, see how there's kind of blurry? That's actually at f3.5 that I'm filming at, right? But if you were at f2.0, have a look at the pictures that you get. Now, the picture quality is really good. There's a couple things that I need to tell you. Firstly, the laser autofocus system. It's brilliant. Thank you for adding that. It's seen on the high-end smartphones, and I really love that they're starting to bring this down to the mid-range to lower-end market. The autofocus system works great in video and really good in picture quality. I was amazed with how fast autofocus on a budget smartphone could be in 2016. That just blew my mind. The picture quality is not the best. I've seen better on the G5, on the S7, on the iPhone, just throwing that out there. Now, what I've noticed with the pictures is if the camera is left into auto mode, which most times and most people will do, is the pictures tend to be a bit underexposed. So I always have to go in and adjust the exposure just to my liking. Maybe some people might like that, maybe some people won't. The second thing that I've had was the mid-tones or mid-range and the shadows of this device. It sort of loses data. For a 16 megapixel, that should not be the case whatsoever. As you can see, if you look in the trees on the green parts and the shadows, it just it's all smudgy and it's not very well detailed. However, I know I'm nitpicking for a budget device, but damn, this is a really good camera on a budget device smartphone. You will love it. The only issue that I had though, beyond that little shadow problem and the underexposure, is it does not shoot 4K, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but guess what, guys? I'm pretty sure if you go to XDA developer, I'm pretty sure someone's going to make an app that shoots 4K with this phone. It is capable of shooting 4K, by the way. Now, the front camera, 5 megapixel f2.2, what the hell does that mean? Firstly, It's good. You're gonna get some good selfies, but one problem that I've noticed with it, and I'm not really a fan of it, it makes your selfies look a bit yellow or pale. The rear facing camera is where all the money's at. So let's talk about the display on this device. It's a 5.5-inch screen, which kind of blows your mind because it does not look like a 5.5-inch display whatsoever. Display is really good. It's 1080p and IPS, so if you're viewing it outdoors or in direct sunlight, you'll have zero issues with it. The second thing that I've noticed is the white. It's a bit on the warm side, and I'm not a huge fan of that. You can't really do any adjustments in the software. The saturation of the display is actually very saturated, it's very vibrant, and you could adjust the vibrancy or the saturation of the display, but that still does not affect the warmness of the whites on the screen. Now, based on everything that you've heard so far, this phone is actually quite promising, and it's a very good successor coming from the Moto G3 from last year. This phone, however, what I've reviewed is actually the 2GB model. There is a 3GB model and a 4GB, but for some reason in Canada, I'm only able to get the 2GB model. So that being said, if you can get the 3 or the 4, go for it by all means, but for some reason I wasn't able to get that, and it's going to cost me quite a bit. Secondly, there is Moto Maker for this, so you could customize the accents, the back door, the front-facing screen to white if you want. So definitely, this is a buy. I would definitely buy this. 2 years, no problem. I would actually say don't buy the G4 if you have the G3, because unless you really want that laser autofocus system, not really the camera, just the laser autofocus system, and if you want the fingerprint scanner, I would actually wait till next year if you have the G3, and get this if you have like the G2 or you just want a phone for the next 12 months that's super affordable. It's for $150, which isn't really a bad price for a smartphone, to be honest.